Welcome back everyone, it's Eric from Rare Candy here. Today we are back with another first impressions video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new Japanese set Rebellious Clash. Just got revealed in full. We had a few of these cards revealed ahead of time, but Japan, usually a week or so before their set releases, they spoil the whole thing once you see all the new cards, and that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. So of course I have seen some of these cards already since they do kind of get revealed gradually up until release. But there's a good chunk of these I'm actually not familiar with, which means by and large these will be mostly my first impressions of the set. And I do want to give a quick warning. I am getting over being sick right now, guys, so I hope I don't sound too under the weather or unenthusiastic. But I felt like a new set just got revealed. This is an important video to do. We definitely want to get this out for you guys as soon as possible to give you some of my early thoughts on where my head is at for some of these cards that are coming out. So if you can, just bear with me. I apologize if I do still sound a little bit under the weather, but we're still gonna have a good time. Take a look at these new cards that we have coming out. So a good bit of cards here. I think it's 96 excluding secret rares and full arts if I remember correctly. But let's see. So we have Scyther. Nothing too special there. That means I'm sure there is a Scizor in this set somewhere. Heracross, nothing special there. Lotad and Lombre. Okay, so Lombre is interesting. There's actually a few Pokemon like this I did see get revealed. So it has this ability: if you draw this card from your deck at the beginning of your turn and there's room on your bench, instead of putting it into your hand, you may directly put it onto your bench. So this is a really cool ability. And there's a couple of cards like this. I believe there's also a Luxio, and I think there's an item card as well. And there's one more. I saw some people talking. Oh, it was Lampent, I'm pretty sure. So really cool. They're giving a lot of these stage 1 Pokemon's really good abilities. Anything that helps evolution decks is definitely going to be, good in my eyes. Now, this is a cool ability, but this really is only as interesting as the Ludicolo that we have. So if Ludicolo is bad, no point in even being excited about this, but definitely a really good ability. Let's see. So we have Ludicolo, 160 HP, grass type. So for DCE, 60 for each prize card you have taken. That's really not terrible because you can use twin energy. So let's say you've taken 3 prizes, you're doing 180. It's like not terrible. I don't think you can build around Ludicolo. That's kind of the issue though. Maybe this could be like a sweeper potentially in some sort of deck. I don't know. I wish there, well, I guess there's the other Ludicolo still. You could play twin energy and unit energies maybe in the deck. There's the water ones from Celestial Storm. It does like more damage for every Pokemon play. So maybe this could be like your late game hitter. I don't know. I'm trying to be excited about this. I think mainly just because the Lombre is good. But I really like the art on this despite the card not being that great. But this first attack is kind of decent. Second one's not that great. But right now I'm not expecting too much from this. So we have Masquerain. Let's see. Okay, so this first attack is interesting. Actually, both these aren't really too bad. So first one, 30. Your opponent can't attach any energy from their hand to the defending Pokemon during their next turn. And then U-turn, 40. Switch this with one of your bench Pokemon. So this is actually kind of similar to the Archeops that we got back from Unified Minds. Very similar. Archeops, I think, is a little bit better. I mean, granted, Archeops is like a fossil Pokemon, and this is just a normal stage 1. But they both are pretty similar, and maybe just playing Archeops is better because with like Research Lab and stuff like that, you can play other additional Pokemon to help out, maybe like Caracosta as an example. But I think both of these attacks are interesting. This attack actually came out on it was Gliscor back from Phantom Forces. Card never really saw much play. I think the case is also going to be pretty much the same for this as well. But these hit and run style attacks are pretty decent. There's just no good way to scale the damage output on this thing, and that's where I lose enthusiasm. But I like both these attacks. I just wish the damage was a bit better. So if this was like 60 your opponent and can't attach energy, and like 60 switch this with one of your best Pokemon, or maybe like 70 or 80, we'd be in business. I think this would be a much better card, but I just don't think it hits quite enough, despite the effects of the attacks being good. So we have a new Trevenant line. Let's see. So 120, your opponent can't retreat. Nothing special there. See, we have Eldegoss V. This is one of the ones that did get revealed ahead of time. Definitely going to be one of the more impactful cards from the set, as I remember. So 180 HP Pokemon V, a little bit on the lower side, but that makes sense given its ability here. So its ability, Happy March. Once during your turn, when you play this card from your hand to your bench, you may put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. And then its attack, actually not terrible too, for 2 colors is 50. You may shuffle this Pokemon, all cards attached into your deck. Great card. I mean, this is going to be kind of the new, like, Shaman, Tapu Lele, Dedenne of the set. Granted, I think this is a bit worse than those, because, like, in the case of Lele, getting a supporter out of deck is a lot more reliable than having to already have one in your discard pile. So that is definitely something that is a bit of a bummer about this. It's not as good as Lele or something like Shaman EX, but nevertheless, this is definitely a pretty strong ability. This card's definitely going to see play. I think that's going to be like a 1 of, maybe a 2 of in a lot of decks, especially like welder decks. I could definitely see this seeing some play specifically for. You might still play in other ones as well. It's hard to say. It is a little bit tankier than Dedenne, so maybe one prize decks might even consider playing this as well. Maybe. I'm not sure. Definitely welder decks, though. I think that's like the big one I would really be looking at if I was going to be building. That seems like the most reasonable deck to play it in, just because we already saw some welder decks play the Mewtwo from Unified Minds, I believe it was. They'll let you put a supporter on top of your deck, and this goes straight to hand, so that's even better. So we'll have to see. But Eldegoss V, I think definitely a very good card. One of the more impactful ones from this set for sure. So next we have Flapple. I'm actually really big fan of Appleton. I thought the Appleton from VMAX Rising was pretty decent. So let's take a look at what we have here for Flapple. So 80 HP. It has this ability. Once during your turn, you put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Then shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your deck. Okay, that's actually kind of cool. Then Acid for a twin energy, essentially 60 coin of heads, discard energy from your opponent's active. Interesting. So I actually really do like this ability. I think this ability is really cool. And the fact that it shuffles itself back into the deck is actually a good thing. I think a lot of people might look at that and think that's annoying. But I think it's actually a good thing, because that means you can reuse this ability throughout the course of a game. So I have to say, I think this is actually really, really cool. Now, what deck do I want to play this in? Honestly, guys, I really don't know. You know, we have Sable IV, we have Yveltal GX that I think would like something like this, but Galarian Obscune already is... It might just be better since it already attacks for Dark Energy and has a really good attack as well. So I don't know if that's the right place for this, but nevertheless, even if you just need to like augment your damage just a little bit, I think Flapple could be a decent consideration. The fact that it goes into the deck is really, really cool, as opposed to something like a Golbat or Crobat from previous formats, where it just sits on your bench after you use it, and you have to use something like an AZ, Acerola, etc. to pick it up. So I actually do like this ability. I really don't know what deck I want to play this in, though. So we have Ninetales V. Okay, this is a new one that hadn't got revealed yet. 200 HP. Let's see. First attack, Fire DCE. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. And then Flamethrower 180, discard an energy from this Pokemon. Okay, so... this is interesting. I feel like since this takes colorless energy, you might want... This it might just be like a tech. Like, you're not going to build around this, but like, let's say, as an example, I don't know if this is where you would play this or not, but easy example. Let's say you're playing a Zacian deck, and you want a way to give yourself an edge in the mirror. If you're already playing like Aurora Energy in your list already, you can potentially play one of these and have like a fire attacker to hit for weakness. So that's an option. I could certainly see that. Really just hard to say. Yeah, I really don't know the home for this. I do like this first attack. I think there is potential around the second attack. Not very good at all, I don't think. But this I could see this theoretically pop up as a one of, or maybe just becomes like a one of in like the Fire Toolbox deck. You know, Ability Zard was once like its own deck, but now it's just kind of morphing into a bunch of different fire attackers. This might just be another one to consider. But a part of me wants to believe that you're going to see this, if it does see play, with like Aurora Energies, Rainbow Energies, as a way to maybe like tech for like fire weak decks maybe. That's kind of where my head is at. Not blown away by this card though. So we have Magmortar. Pretty cool art on this thing. I do like that. Let's see, first attack, 30 in burn, not very good. Then each player discards a card from the top of their deck. This attack does 100 more damage for each card discarded this way. That's a bit interesting. So we have a Rangaroo, of course, so we can obviously put a fire energy on top of our deck ourselves. Do 180. So for Welder, one attachment, we're going to be good to go. It seems okay. Now, I think we need a way to manipulate our opponent's top deck. Does Team Yell Grunt make the card go to hand or to the top of their deck? I think it goes to hand. If it goes to their top deck, that could be interesting. But if we get hit 280, that becomes a lot more interesting. Hitting 180 alone really isn't that bad. One slot Gyrosean with weakness. So this is an interesting card. I don't hate this. Don't love it, but I don't hate it either, though. So next up we have Chandelure. Always excited for Chandelure. They always give Chandelure very interesting effects. I'm a big fan of this Pokemon from Gen 5. Let's see if we can get a good Chandelure here. So each of your Pokemon has an energy, has no weakness. Then 110. Your opponent's axe is now confused. So that's pretty bad. Now, this does have the Lampent, like I said, has the same ability as the Lombre we just looked at. So I actually think if you were playing the other Chandelure, the one from, what, Unified Minds? Or was it Unbroken Bonds? I forget. If you're playing that deck, then this definitely is going to be the go-to Lampent that you'll want to use, I think, going forward. Just because you can potentially cheat one into play every now and again. So that's kind of cool. Attack, not too special, but the ability, definitely pretty solid. Let's see, Heatmore. Nothing special there. Well, I don't know, 120 does knock out Gyrosean for weakness, so this could be like a one prizer maybe. But I feel like you already have other stuff like Baby Blounds that can already kind of do the same thing, so maybe it's not very good. So we have Pelipper. Let's see. Nothing special there. So we have my Milotic V. Next Pokemon V. 210 HP. Has Aqua Impact 10 plus 50 for each colorless in your opponent's active's retreat cost. Okay, now you're talking my language. As you guys know, I'm a big proponent of the Tangrowth deck that we got back from Cosmic Eclipse. Definitely a big fan of that. Helped popularize that one. And it's basically the same thing, but a bit stronger. Tangrowth is 10 plus 30. 10 plus 50 is a big difference. So if they have a 3 retreat, so you're hitting 160, not too bad, I guess. So you have to remember we have Absols to increase this damage output. We also have a new stadium that actually got revealed like the day before the whole set that increases retreat costs by 2. So definitely some potential there. You know, the big thing with Tangrowth, it's just a single attachment, whereas Milotic, you're going to need to run additional energy acceleration. Like, you're probably going to need to run Frostmoth or, like, Welder or something like that, because you can go Welder, 2 fire, attach water for turn. So I'm not sure if this is just... I'm not sure if this is better or worse than the Tangrowth. The big upside to this, as opposed to, like, Dreadnought, which came out in Sword and Shield, is that this is a basic. So I think this is probably just better than Dreadnought. But, again, just really not sure how we want to get this powered up. Then 150 your opponent's active is sleep. So second attack pretty bad, but the first one definitely has potential, guys, especially since we do have Absol and we do have the new Galar Mine card that we're going to look at in this set too. So we have Seismitoad, 30 confusion, 120, plus 120 more if they're confused. That seems pretty bad. Well, I guess there is Ear Ringing Bell. You could play with this, like the tool card that confuses your opponent when they attack into you. So for water and a triple acceleration, you can pull that off. That seems pretty bad, though, overall, though. So we have Galarian Darmanitan. See, 80, 10 to each your opponent's bench Pokemon. 170, can't use that next turn. Not very good. We got Ice Cube. If this Pokemon's HP is at max, any damage done to it by opponent's attacks is reduced by 60. So that's actually pretty cool. You are effectively a 180 HP Pokemon, like one prizer. That's actually really solid for just a basic. But its attack, let's see, 70, 10 more, or 10 to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Attack is really bad though, guys. Probably not going to see play as a result. So you have Electrode, pretty bad. We got Electivire. Let's see, pretty bad. So you have the Luxury line, and of course, like I mentioned, Luxio has that same ability that we just looked at with Lombre and Lampent. Very interesting. All of them have an L name. Lombre, Luxio, and Lampent. I don't know if that was intentional or what, but happy coincidence. And I don't even remember if I mentioned it, but we can actually use Oranguru to actually put these Pokemon as our top deck, and the next turn we can draw into them, get them right on the bench. So that is the combo we will want to use for all of these. Now, Luxio does have some competition just because we have the Item Lock Luxio already. That one might just be better just because Item Lock is very oppressive. But nice to have at least another good Luxio around. So let's see Luxio. Luxio has been striking out with good cards in recent years. So 60, this Pokemon evolved from Luxio during your turn. This does 100 more damage. So 160 for 1, honestly not bad. 120 for 2, kind of mediocre, but 160 for 1's not bad. We have... what is it, Hyper Devolution Spray or Devolution Spray Z to unevolve our Luxrays if we choose to. So that's an option. And we do have Electro Power. So 160 for 1, honestly, really not that bad for a stage 2, but I'm not sure if this is good enough to build around because you will have to keep finding ways to re-evolve into this over and over. So next up we have Toxtricity V and VMAX. These are one of the first cards that actually got revealed from the set. So let's see, 210 HP. So lightning, 20 your opponent's active is poison, and then 90 plus 90 if your opponent's active is poison. So that's okay for just the base form, like unevolved V. There is a new Garbodor that can inflict poison via an ability, I'm pretty sure. So that's, I guess, how we would probably do this. I don't know if there's another great way to poison anything in format outside of the new Garbodor. Like, we lost Poison Barb, so that's not a thing right now, I'm pretty sure. Maybe there's something I'm blanking on, but I don't think there's a great way at inflicting poison right now. Koga's Trap, maybe? That's, I think, one of the only things I can really think of right this second. Let's see, Toxtricity VMAX. So same thing, if your opponent's active is poison, it's going to do 240. So with the poison tick, that's going to bring you up to 250. Now there is a Toxicroak that we got in Sword and Shield that increases poison damage between turns. That's an option, but like, I mean, if you're playing Lightning Energy, I don't know why you're not playing just Pikarom as it is. I feel like that's just generally better. Like, you have to evolve into this. You have to have another way to inflict status conditions. Like, 240 is fine. You can scale that up really nicely to knock out tag teams, but again, if you're already playing Lightning, Pikarom I think is just going to be better most of the time. So even though we have Thunder Mountain, we have Tapu Koko Prism Star, we even have things like Counter Gain, if you want to go that route to really reduce the attack cost, I think Pikarom is probably just the best Lightning attacker we have in format right now. So I'm not super sold on this, especially since Pikarom doesn't need like a stage 1 partner to do a lot of damage as well. Or maybe, you know, we'll have to keep looking through the set, but there might be something else in here I'm overlooking that can inflict poison more easily. But right now, not crazy about Toxtricity. So we got more Pico. Nothing special there. Okay, we finally have Fairy Pokemon being represented as Psychics. That was some of the big news that came out after Sword and Shield, was they eliminated Fairy Pokemon and they're going to be represented as Psychic going forward. So we have Clefable, as you can see, still weak to Metal, so that's cool. They did retain their Metal weakness. But once during your turn, when you play this from your hand evolved Pokemon, you may choose an energy attached to your opponent's active, return it to the top of their deck. Okay, so we have our partner for the Magmortar deck. So we have Oranguru, we can put energy on top of our deck, and then we have Clefable, put energy on top of their deck. And it's actually kind of okay too, because whenever you use Magmortar's attack, you discard that card. So this effectively just says discard energy on your opponent's active, effectively, once you attack with your Magmortar. So that seems cool. I'm not sure if that's just a little bit too gimmicky to pull off, but hitting 280 on a well-durable one-prize Pokemon seems okay. And disrupting your opponent in the process, kind of okay as well. So, I'm not sure how good that deck is, but it's definitely worth messing around with. So, Sigilyph, this Pokemon is active and damaged, plays 3 damage counters, not great. And 30 plus 10 for each damage counter on the opponent's active. Also, not particularly good, I don't think. So a Palisand. So for a twin energy, discard a card from the top of your opponent's deck. If that has, or if this Pokemon has Curse Shovel attached to it, discard 2 more cards. So Curse Shovel is a new tool card. I'm pretty sure. I'm not exactly sure with what it does. Off the top of my head, we'll have to see once we get down to the trainer cards. But being able to mill 3 for a twin energy is okay. Now the big downside is that we don't have great ways at recycling special energies, but I guess we do have triple acceleration energy in format too. So we have that, we have twin energy, and that might just be enough to get us through a game. That seems pretty cool, having a new mill option in the mix. So we have that. We have Belba Bryson Man, maybe play Cinchino with this too if you want to. Seems interesting. So yeah, we'll definitely have to wait and see what Curse Shovel does. But I do like this attack though, generally speaking. Seems okay. Okay, so now we have Hadokant, the Gardevoir, essentially, of Sword and Shield. Oh, and a opponent, Hatina, actually has a pretty decent attack. First one, just search your deck for a Pokemon. Any nice consistency boost we can get is going to be appreciated for a Stage 2. So, Hadokant, ability, once during your turn, each player may discard, you may have each player discard 1 card from their hand. Okay. So your opponent discards first. If either player has no cards in their hand, that player does not discard. Okay, then it's attack for a Psychic. Put damage counters on your opponent's active equal to the number of Pokemon in your discard pile. Now that's actually pretty interesting. So that's kind of cool. So it's kind of like Be Revenge that we had back on Vespiquen, or even Revenge back on Flareon. There's even a Zora Arcan format that still does something kind of like this, but the fact that we only need a single Psychic is decent. Now, the one thing is a bummer, though, is that this is damage counters and not damage. That means we can't hit something like Mewtwo for weakness. That's really the big downside to this. I think if this was damage, not damage counters, we'd be in a much better spot. In Standard, I mean, we don't have the greatest ways of getting things in the discard pile. I mean, we have Professor's Research and Quick Ball now. I guess we still have Treasure, so I shouldn't say that. So what Pokemon do we want in the discard pile? That is kind of the question from there. Any Pokemon with good abilities we can discard, like Marshadow. That seems like a no-brainer. We could easily play Marshadow in the deck, get rid of Stadium cards, and also fuel our attack here in the process. You could play maybe some sort of... let me think. Yeah, really just kind of blinking right here. I guess maybe some sort of starter Pokemon. Like if you want to max out your counts of Jirachi, or max out something like, Mesprit or Dunsparce, you can always just discard your excess copies with something like this. There's also, I think it's Spirit Tomb from Unbroken Bonds, I think. It's a Spirit Tomb, I'm pretty sure, that allows you to search your deck and discard some Pokemon, so that could be an option as well. I think this card's interesting. The fact that this is damage counters, though, leads me to believe this won't be that good, but I think it does have potential at the very least, though. Oh, we have Duskull. I did need to point out, Duskull's actually very good with this, because we can discard our... Duskull lets you discard 3 cards from hand, so we can discard, of course, our excess Pokemon that we don't need. So that seems kind of cool. But yeah, I think it's an interesting card. I'll probably mess around with it, but I don't have high hopes for it. So you have Alchemy. Attaching our basic energies from hand to your Pokemon any way you like. Nothing very impressive there. If that was an ability when you evolved into this, this would be much better. Baz and attack, not very good. So you have Dragapult V and VMAX. These did get revealed a little while ago, but let's go over them. Let's see. 210 HP, 30, then 2 Psychic, 60. If this was on your bench, became your active, 80 more. Okay, so it's basically a first impression that we had on Golisopod. And we're hitting for 140. That's a decent amount of damage. That's going to one-shot a Mewtwo Mew GX, which is really nice. So that is definitely good. But let's see what Dragapult VMAX does. So 320 HP, Shred 60, goes through any effects when your opponent's active. That's fine. But then 130, put 5 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon any way that you like. Now, that's actually kind of okay. 130 is not a crazy amount of damage, but thanks to things like Spell Tag, or thanks to this ability, that kind of sets up 2 shots for you as needed. So I think I think it's especially good against like one prize decks, but I don't think this is like especially great against like 2 and 3 prize decks. But nevertheless, between spell tag and between this attack, I think this is actually okay. 2 psychic energies really isn't a big deal either, since we have Malamar to get this thing set up if we need to. So I do like this. I'm really not sure how great it is against things like Gyrosean that are currently dominating the format, but I think this is very good against one prize decks. And the fact this is damage counters and not damage will allow you to get through something like Mute as well, which is nice. So let's see, we have Medicham. 40 goes through resistance and weakness, and then 60 plus 20 more for each energy in your opponent's attached to your opponent's active. Okay, so this could be a decent triple acceleration target for Pikarom, because if they have 3 energy, hit 120 times 2 for weakness is going to be a one-shot. So if we do see a deck that is playing triple acceleration energies, you can play a Ditto line potentially and use this to knock out Pikaroms if your Pikarom matchup isn't that great. So just something to kind of keep in mind. So we have Whiscash. As long as the Pokemon on your bench takes no damage, that's fine. But then 140 for 2, 20 to each of your bench Pokemon. So that's not a god-awful amount of damage. Like, the damage to energy ratio is fine, considering we have Karate Belt in format, but yeah, not really impressed with this. Just kind of okay. So we have Galarian, Yamask, and Runerigus. Definitely excited to see what these do. I really like the Galarian Runerigus, one of my favorite regional forms from the new games. So 100 HP, first attack for a twin energy, count the number of damage counters on this Galarian Runerigus, put twice as many damage counters on your opponent's active. So that's okay. If you have 9 damage counters total, you can do 180. That seems kind of meh. I really wish this was like put twice as many damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon. That would actually make me a bit more excited to play this. Just because it's kind of convoluted getting the setup. Like, granted, you can play Spirit Tomb and Jinx as an example, and maybe have this as just like a late game hitter potentially. Also, the fact this is damage counters means you can't use something like Hustle Belt as well. So, again, kind of like with Hatterene, I wish this was damage, not damage counters, or I wish this spread to everything. That would make this a bit more appealing. So close with this card, I don't think it's very good as a result. So we have Colossal finally getting its own card. 160 HP. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for, or discard pile, I'm sorry, for a fire and a fighting energy, and attach them to your Pokemon any way that you like. Okay, so fighting's getting some energy acceleration. That's good. The fact that it's 2 energy actually makes me a little bit optimistic for this. Now, granted, it's awkward that you need fire and fighting. Like, I don't know of anything really good right now in the format that wants either of these. Like, especially for a fighting deck. Like, if you're a fire deck, you already have Welder and other ways to get your fire Pokemon set up. So I think when we're looking at this, it has to be for a fighting deck that has colorless energy in their attack cost. Because we do need to be able to accelerate. There needs to be a reason to be able to accelerate the fire energy. Off the top of my head, I'm really not sure. There's a lot of bad fighting Pokemon in the current format, so we'll have to like thumb through the card pool and see what might have potential. But you know, I think this ability is decent. Porygon Z might just be better and play unit energies and rainbows, but the fact that it's not from hand is something that is good as opposed to Porygon. So not really sure where this fits in, but it's a card that we do have to keep in our mind whenever new fighting Pokemon come out. So next up we have Phalanx V. So I'm excited for this. We had a Phalanx back from VMAX Rising, I'm pretty sure it was. That was pretty cool, but it was pretty bad at the same time because there was no Phalanx V to partner with it, and now we have that, so that's pretty nice. So 160 HP, but its ability says, as long as this Pokemon is in play, damage done to any of your Pokemon with Phalanx in its name by your opponent's attacks is reduced by 20. And then Giga Impact 210, this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. So, one thing it's important to point out, it says Phalanx in its name, not Pokemon named Phalanx. That's a very big distinction because that means this will reduce damage for your non-V Phalanx as well, like the one that came out in VMAX Rising. And similarly, that one has an attack. I think it's 30 for every Pokemon with Phalanx in its name on your bench, I'm pretty sure. So you can see the combo between both of these. Granted, I don't know how good this actually is because the Phalanx V attacks for Twin Energy, I'm sorry, the non-V attacks for Twin Energy. This needs actual fighting, so that makes your energy counts a little bit weird. And this needs 3 fightings to get up and running. That's also a little bit of a red flag for me. Like, we do have Karate Belt and Counter Gain, but I don't know. I'm not sold on the concept. I think getting your Phalanx powered up is going to be kind of the issue. But I'm definitely excited to try out the Phalanx deck. It's one I do want to experiment with, but definitely cool that we have a Phalanx V in the mix. The ability, if we just run through the math, if we have all 4 of these in play, it's going to reduce our damage by 80, meaning we effectively have 240 HP, which is pretty decent for a 2 prize basic as opposed to a 3 prize basic. Pikarom has 240, and that gives up 3 prizes by comparison. So, yeah, so interesting card. I don't know how good it's going to be, but I do like the synergy between this and the other Phalanx. So Stonjourner, let's see. 80 and then 120 if you have one more energy attached to this Pokemon. Okay, so if you have 5 energy, you're doing 180. That doesn't seem that great, sorry. So next up, Galarian Weezing. I've seen a lot of talk about this card, so let's see what it does here. 130 HP, has this ability. As long as this Pokemon is your active, each of your opponent's Pokemon has no abilities, excluding this one. And then for a Dark Energy, your opponent's active is now Poison, and they take 4 damage counters for Poison in between turns. So this ability is very good. It's very similar to the Wobbuffet back from Phantom Forces. Wobbuffet, of course, was a basic, and it only shut off non-psychic abilities. This is a little bit stronger in some ways. Like, it's weaker in the sense that it's a stage 1, but this applies only to your opponent, and then it shuts off all of their abilities, not just non-psychic ones. So this is strong, but I think the real Achilles heel to this card is the fact that it has a 3 retreat cost. So as a result, this is not really a very effective wall Pokemon. Like, ideally, you would play this with something like Beheeyem as an example, or Hitmonchan, and it would be a hit and run style deck, and you just retreat this and attack with something new every turn. But we don't have Floatstone in the format, and Air Balloon only reduces the retreat cost by 2. So there's not really a great way at removing this from play. I think one of the only options is Dawn Wings with an Air Balloon. Other than that, I mean, like, you have to just attack with Weezing, and Weezing is just not a great attacker. 4 damage counters for Poison is okay, and you can bump that up if you do want to play something like Toxicroak from Sword and Shield. But, I mean, just switching cards are everywhere. Zacian plays 4 switch, and then some copies of Mallow and Lana usually as well, plus skateboards. So I really don't think this is going to be a very good attack. This is, I think, going to be best as a potential wall that you throw up in between attacks with something like a Beheeyem deck or something like that. So we'll have to see. Maybe there's a trainer card in this set that does something like that. That'll help. But right now, I think the retreat cost is going to be the big downside to this card. So we have Spirit Tomb. See, discard the top card from each player's deck. That's okay. And then for a Dark Colorless, put damage counters on your opponent's active equal to the number of Pokemon in your discard pile. Okay, so it's kind of like Hatterene. Now, the big downside to this is that it needs 2 energy. That's kind of the trade-off. If, Hatterene is the stage 2, but like the trade-off is you only have to attack for 1 energy. This is much easier to get up and running, but you do need an additional one. So we will need to play something to cheat an extra energy and play, like Bead, Counter Gain, maybe even Tapu Koko Prism Star, something like that. And my big issue with this card is kind of like what I said with Hatterene, not really too many great ways of getting Pokemon in the discard right now. And the fact that this is damage counters means you can't hit things for weakness. So, I mean, it's cool that we're seeing this type of effect come back, but I'm really not too enthusiastic about it for the moment, especially with how high the HPs are getting now in the game. I think these types of attacks get worse and worse because they require more and more Pokemon in the discard pile to be able to keep up with the growing HP amounts that Pokemon have. So really not crazy about Spiritomb. I think I like Hatterene a little bit more if I had to pick. So next up we have Trubbish and Garbodor. Okay, so Garbodor, I mentioned this already with Toxtricity V. Once during your turn, if there's a stadium in play, you may leave your opponent to active poison. That's the way we can inflict our status conditions. And just generally, this is basically just like, for turn, do 10 more damage. I think a lot of the time that is pretty decent. So I kind of like that. I mean, mainly it's just going to be good with Pokemon that require some sort of special condition to do more damage, I think. So if you're playing the Toxtricity V and VMAX, I think you have to play Garbodor with it. It's kind of a no-brainer. Outside of that, guys, I really don't see this being a particularly great card. Maybe you can play this with Galarian Weezing and just swarm with Weezings. And, like, you're going to have, like, probably 2 Weezings on board, 1 Garbodor. Or no, the Weezing already does poison. What am I even talking about? Yeah, so scrap that idea, guys. Basically, just play this with Toxtricity. Off the top of my head, I don't know of another great card that really wants to inflict status conditions. And with the switching cards being so prevalent right now, status conditions don't have a great chance to really stick right now either. So it's probably going to be only limited to the Toxtricity VMAX deck. So let's see, we have Mandibuzz. I feel like we haven't seen a good Mandibuzz in a long time. So flip till we get Tails. Off to a bad start already. Then second attack does 100 to one of your opponent's Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. So that's not bad. The issue is it takes 2 Dark Energies. And if we're getting 2 Dark Energies on a Pokemon and we're spreading damage counters, we'd rather just attack with something like an Obstagoon or a Sableye. So I don't think this really is too great unless we have some sort of Dark Energy acceleration in the format. Ooh, so next up we have Malamar V and VMAX. So Malamar V, let's take a look. 210 HP. Choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, switch it with their active. This attack is 30 to the new active Pokemon. So kind of awkward for 2 Dark Energy. I wish this was just 1. And then 2 Dark and of course was 130. Your opponent's active is now confused. Pretty bad, but I'm assuming the VMAX is going to be where this thing gets a little bit more exciting. So Malamar VMAX, kind of like the art on this. That looks nice. Giganto Jammer. Very funny attack name. Your opponent reveals their hand. Choose one card you find there. Put it on the bottom of their deck. Okay, so 180 is a decent number. You're going to 2-shot most everything in the format. So I guess you could play this like a hand control deck. Like you can play Marnie. Put them down to a 4-card hand. Use this to remove a card from their hand. Maybe you play Jesse and James with this thing. I feel like if you're getting this powered up, what are you doing? You're playing... probably Weavile GX with red and blue. I think that's one of the only things I can really see for this. Like, I think that could be an awkward problem, like just getting this thing powered up. That might be the big challenge, but I do like this attack. And being able to choose specifically the card is really, really big. So if you go Reset Stamp or Marnie, whatever it might be to disrupt your opponent's hand, and then choose what card goes at the bottom, that's actually pretty solid. So if we can find a way to get this thing powered up, I would like this a bit more. So right now, my money is going to be on the Weavile GX, like red and blue engine. So we have Scizor, 30 plus 90. If you evolve from Scyther, that's okay. And then 90. During your opponent's next turn, any damage done to this Pokemon by attacks reduced by 30. First attack is okay. Like maybe if we need to hit Metal Weakness on something that comes out at some point, this would be an easy way to do that. But for the moment, not blown away by it. So you have Probopass. Okay, 10 plus 30 for each colorless in your opponent's active's retreat cost. So they are really pushing this theme with this set. We have the Milotic V already. Now we have this. This is literally just the same attack that's already on Tangrowth, but for Metal Energy. And I have to say, like, there are pros to this. Being Metal type gives you access to buff padding. Also gives you access to things like Galarian, Berserker, Metal Saucer, etc. But honestly, I don't think this is better than Tangrowth. Tangrowth has Netball to use. Also has both of the Tangles are very, very good. Especially the Tangle Drag Tangle that can switch your opponent's active with one of their bench Pokemon. Insane attack. I've won so many games just with that one attack alone with the deck. So I really don't think there's much reason to play this over the Tangrowth. Let's actually go and check out Nose Pass though, because if Nose Pass has a good attack, that might change things. Yeah, so Nose Pass is just pretty forgettable. There might be another good Nose Pass in format, but unless there's one that's better than the Tangle Drag Tangela, I am not playing this. We're just going to play Tangrowth instead. So we have Durant. For each energy attached, search your deck for a trainer card reveal, put it into your hand. Nothing special there. Copperajah V. So it's the 220 HP, 90 during your opponent's next turn. This Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks, and then rack down 180. Not the best, especially when you compare it to Zacian V. But Copperajah does have a VMAX, so of course we have to look at that. We have Copperajah VMAX here. 340 HP, so tied up there with Snorlax for the most HP in the game. So very, very tanky. For retreat like Snorlax, so we can play buff padding if we do choose to. Though I think you probably just rather play Frying Pan, just because getting rid of your weakness is probably more important than the extra 20 HP. But let's see. 2 Metal and Colorless 100. If your opponent's active as a basic Pokemon, this does 100 more damage. That's actually pretty decent. Being able to do just a flat 200. Most things in the game right now are basics. Granted, this attack gets worse, I think, as the format, like as the game goes on and we get more VMAXs, I think this attack gets worse. But right now, that's really not horrible. You would just need a Galarian Berserker to one-shot a Zacian V. That's the only annoyance with this. But just a flat 200 with no drawback is pretty solid. On a 340 HP Pokemon, I do like that. And Giant Hammer, 240. Okay, so this is your big nuking attack that you have just for one more energy. So even though this doesn't have the insane ability that Zacian has, it's also effectively a stage 1. I do think there is potential for this card. 340 HP is absolutely insane. You're not getting one-shotted. And with all the healing that exists, like with Mal and Lana, and the damage reduction modifiers that exist like Lucario and Melmetal, Metal Frying Pan, Buff Padding, etc. I think this card actually seems pretty decent. I think it's going to be pretty hard for your opponent to actually like to nuke you and ever take a one-hit knockout, especially if you're playing Frying Pan. So even though at a glance, I think there are definitely a lot of incentives to just keep playing Zacian, I actually do want to mess around with Copperajah. It has a lot of tanking potential that Zacian doesn't. And that might make up for the fact that it's a stage 1, effectively a stage 1, and doesn't have that insane ability. So Snorlax, not very good. Chatot. Once during your turn, whenever you play this card from your hand on your bench, flip a coin of heads, choose a supporter from discard, put it into your hand. Okay, so this is actually literally just the same thing as the Eldegoss V, but on a coin flip. And honestly, I think this is really cool. We get a lot of comments and videos all the time saying like, you know, Jirachi is really expensive or Dedenne is really expensive. What would you suggest to play in the meantime? So this is actually, I think, a great thing for the game that they're printing kind of a budget option like this. So, you know, Eldegoss is probably going to be one of the pricier Pokemon V from this set when it comes out. And the fact that if a lot of people can't afford that initially, we have this great sort of budget option to give them is something I think is really good for the game. I know a lot of the people that watch this channel are competitive players, but for those newer players getting into the game, especially those kids maybe in your local area who don't have the money for some of these big expensive staple cards, Chatot is, I think, a really cool option for people on a budget to have. So I think Eldegoss is better from a competitive standpoint, almost exclusively most of the time, but it is cool that this does exist. So we have Unpheasant, and Pidove actually does have a good attack. So search your deck for up to 2 Pokemon with fighting resistance, put them into your hand, which means you can grab like a Pidove and an Unpheasant, which is really cool. This is actually a really great attack for a pre-evolution. So if we ever get a good Unpheasant, this will be the Pidove to go to going forward. So Unpheasant here. 150 HP. DC does 50. And then, wait, the attacks of the thing Pokemon do. Okay, so then 50 less damage next turn. Not god-awful. Then the second attack for a triple acceleration is 150, discard, and energy. Kind of mediocre. It's like it's not a horrible card, guys, but if you're playing a stage 2, I think there's better ones to play than this thing. But nevertheless, Pidove, really, really cool. Really do like this a lot, so always keep this in mind whenever a new Unpheasant comes out. There is another Unpheasant still in format. It's like, for a triple acceleration, you shuffle all cards attached to both active Pokemon into deck. So if you're playing that one, you know, this is definitely the P-Dove to use. So we have Beware up next. 90, discard a card from the top of your opponent's deck. That's okay for a triple acceleration energy, I suppose. Then big throw, flip a coin of heads, toss your opponent across the room, and discard your opponent's active Pokemon, all cards attached to it. So you can see Pokebeach is getting cheeky with their translation here. But yeah, flip a coin of heads, discard your opponent's active, all cards attached to it. That's a pretty big gamble. I think you would probably play this for the first attack if you're going to. But I think Licky Licky is probably just better, because Licky Licky also discards energy from their active and a card from their hand. So Beware, probably not that great by comparison. So we have Greedent, our first Greedent card, I believe. So once during your turn, may search your deck for a Pokemon tool, reveal it, put it into your hand. Okay, not horrible. You know, especially if you're playing like the tool drop deck, maybe at some point I could see this. That could help that deck out, but I think Adventure Bag's probably just better most of the time. So this is a cool ability, but I just don't know what deck would want this other than tool drop. Like, if Adventure Bag wasn't already in the format, I would say, hey, you know what, go ahead, play Greedent, it's fine. But for a stage 1, not a big fan of this. If this was a basic, I would like this a good bit more. Okay, so that's all the Pokemon, guys. Getting into the trainer cards, we have Scoop Up Net. Guys, this card is stupid. It's stupid, stupid, stupid in a good way. So put one Pokemon excluding V and GX. I really do love that they included that on the card. Fantastic. I wish more cards did have these exclusions. So put one Pokemon into your hand, discard all cards attached to that Pokemon. So this is especially good with one prize cards. Like, think of something like Galarian Obstagoon, just as an example, that has all these Pokemon with great coming into play abilities. You can just scoop it up, slap it back down if you want to. So that's good. Also, think in the expanded format where we have Pokemon EX. You can pick up Shaman EXs with this. It's so dumb. Or even like the Crobat evolution line. So yeah, like we've seen a bunch of decks in the past play Super Scoop Ups. And if they are a non-Pokemon V GX deck, this is just instantly better than Super Scoop Up. I guess the only downside would be you don't get the energies that are attached to them. But a lot of the Pokemon that you played Scoop Up with already were like single attachment decks anyways, or in the case of Crobat, they have no energy attached to them. So this card is absolutely insane. Super, super, super good, especially in expanded, like I said. In standard, off the top of my head, I mean, guys, these are my first impressions. Haven't had a chance to comb through the card pool, but Obstagoon, that's one of the only things I can really think of, has really good coming into playability. Or, yeah, coming into playability. Also, this could be good with Obstagoon just in general, because after, like, let's say you get your Obstagoon up, you attack basic Pokemon and can't hit it, play Scoop Up Nets, remove the rest of your Pokemon from play, and deny your opponent the option go Fion, Custom Catcher, and knock you out. So Scoop Up Net, this is a very, very good card. Definitely expect this to see play in expanded and standard as well. But expanded, especially since this doesn't apply to EXs, is really where things get interesting. So big fan of this card, very good. So we have Nugget. This is kind of like the stage 1s we looked at. So play this card whenever you draw it from your deck at the start of your turn before putting it into your hand. Draw 3. So obviously the combo we can do with this is we can use something like a Rangaroo or Magcargo to put this on top of our deck, and then whenever we draw into it on our next turn, we draw an additional 3 cards. So, you know, I don't know if we're building around this, but if you're already a deck that plays a Rangaroo or Magcargo, I think you just start playing this in there. Because it's basically just a free draw 3, which is very, very good. So I don't know if this is too gimmicky or not, but I do like this effect. And so maybe if you're already a deck that plays a Rangaroo, maybe you play one extra copy of a Rangaroo and some copies of Nugget. I'm not sure. I do want to experiment with this. I think it's really cool. I really like this entire mechanic that they've made, though. You know, a lot of times in Pokemon, it feels like they're constantly just recycling old effects that have been printed on cards before, but this, I really like this entire suite of cards they are coming out with in the set, like this, the Lombre, Lampent, all of those, and this is a really unique effect. I'm really happy to see them still innovating, coming up with cool effects in the game even in 2020. So very interested in trying this card out. I'm not sure where I stand on it overall though. So we have the homie Tool Scrapper coming back into the mix after a long absence without it. Now granted, I think I would have liked to have seen Field Blower instead, but Tool Scrapper, I mean, you know, we'll take it, guys. We have no good tool removal in the format. Right now we only really have Faba, which is a supporter, and then from there we have Dangerous Drill. I think those are probably the better tool removal options we have. Tool Scrapper, you discard up to 2 tool cards from either player's Pokemon. Tool Scrapper saw widespread play back in 2012 whenever it came out, and basically up until they printed Startling Megaphone, this card saw play. It's going to be the same. Still going to see play. There's plenty of tool cards worth getting rid of, especially if you're playing against like in your Zacian mirror matches. If your opponent plays Metal Frying Pan, sometimes that is going to throw off your math, or like a Big Charm, or you know, whatever it might be. Tool Scrapper and come in, get rid of those tool cards. So Tool Scrapper will for sure absolutely see play. So now we got to the Curse Shovel. We saw this with the Palisand, I think it was. So let's see what this thing does. See, tool card, if the Pokemon this tool card is attached to is knocked out by damage, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. Okay, so that pairs very nicely with Palisand actually. So you're discarding 3 every time with this attached. And then if they knock you out, it's additional 2 cards. That plus like Cinccino and Belva Bryson, man, that actually kind of seems like a half decent sort of mill deck. You know, I'm not sure if just playing a Ranguru and like Dolls and stuff is just better with Cinccino, but I have to say I am a fan of this. We have Triple Acceleration, we have Twin Energy as well. We have this tool card, so I think there's actually a good bit of pieces to getting this up and running. So I actually do want to try out Palisand. This combo does seem pretty decent to me. So next up we have the Oleana. Discard 2 cards from your hand. Your opponent reveals their hand. Choose a trainer card you find there. Put it at the bottom of your opponent's deck. Okay, so that's a big cost for this effect. Like first of all, it's a supporter, and then second of all, you have to discard 2 cards from your hand. Maybe play this with Malamar VMAX, maybe? Because you can go Reset Stamp, Oleana, then Malamar, and like get rid of another card. I don't know. Guys, I will have to admit I'm not a big control player most of the time, so maybe there's something I'm like missing, but I usually just on principle try not to play control, so my brain really isn't even in like the right mindset to try to break a card like this. But it seems kind of okay. It's just like if your opponent doesn't have a trainer card there, I mean most of the time they will, but if they don't, congratulations, you discard 2 cards from your hand and wasted your supporter for nothing. So I don't know. I feel like someone's going to come up with some degenerate mill deck that plays this, but my knee-jerk reaction, that is just kind of like, meh. Not a big fan. So we have Dan. Let's see. Draw 2 cards. Play rock, paper, scissors. If you win, draw 2 more cards. I don't think this card's good. But this will make pre-releases a lot of fun. Like whenever this comes out, like this will definitely be your chance to play the card in Rebel Clash pre-releases, but not very good from a competitive point of view. So next up we have Boss's Orders. A lot of controversy around this card. This did get revealed ahead of time. And it's basically just a Lysander reprint. Choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, switch it with their active. So this is what, like our 4th or 5th gusting effect we have in the format. So we have Great Catcher, Custom Catcher, Pokemon Catcher, Ninetales, and now Boss's Way, I think. Those are going to be our Boss's Orders. I'm sorry. So yeah, this is easily going to see play. Lysander saw play, you know, up until it rotated. Still sees play and expanded in some decks. I think a lot of decks do prefer Guzma, but it even still does make its way into expanded decks. This is absolutely 100% going to see play, especially now that we have Eldegoss. Like in the late game, I know so many games are just going to be decided by, yeah, I Marnied my opponent, but then they used Eldegoss for Boss's Orders, and then just like brought up my Dedenne and I lost. So this is definitely going to be a common card you're going to see in every deck. Pick them up. Absolutely going to be a staple. Fantastic card. You know, do you guys like that this is coming back into the format? I've seen a lot of people act very negatively about this getting reprinted, but you know, it's a supporter and you don't have to switch your active, which is something I do like about this in terms of like the health of the game, because Guzma basically always prevented any status conditions from ever being reliable because every deck played Guzma. So I do like the fact that this is a Lysiana reprint over Guzma reprint, but you know, what do you guys think? Are you still going to play your custom catchers and all of that, or are you going to go straight for boss's orders? Definitely sound below in the comment section. What do you think? So we have Galar Mine. This is a card that did get revealed ahead of time, and I'm excited for this. Like I said, I'm a big proponent of the Tangrowth deck, and this fits like so nicely right in there. So the retreat cost of each active Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, is 2 more. So this basically reads plus 60 damage if you're Tangrowth, Dreadnought, Milotic V, or the Probopass that we looked at. So this is definitely good, especially against evolution Pokemon. That's one area where Tangrowth has always kind of like struggled, is against when you go against evolutions. You don't have a great way at doing damage, and this is going to give you an out against them. Now, the big downside to this, however, is the fact that this is going to basically shut off your own Jirachi engine. So you might have to reevaluate how you build the Tangrowth deck going forward. But I'm so excited for this. Like I said, I'm a huge Tangrowth fan, and I'm definitely excited to try this out. This is also going to be a card I could see seeing play in mill decks potentially as well. Just because straining your opponent's active and removing energy and stuff like that has always been sort of a strategy we've seen from mill decks in the past. So we've seen them play things like, what was it, Team Aqua's Hideout for a similar reason in the past. So we could see this pop up. We've seen Mount Lanakila, I believe, as well. So Galar Mine, big fan of this card. It's going to be very, very annoying, so be prepared to go against it. And next up, we just have 3 special energies, and all these are pretty good, guys. These all got revealed a little bit ahead of time. Big fan of these. Speed Lightning Energy. This card is ridiculous. So as if Pikarom and Lightning didn't need any more support. Here we have, it's just a special energy for Lightning Pokemon, but when you attach this card from hand to one of your Lightning Pokemon, draw 2 cards. Fantastic. So a lot of the Pikarom decks have played the like Tag Call engine with Guzma and Hala, so now you can cut those unit energies, play Speed Lightning energies, or even if you don't want to play Guzma Hala, like I think I'm still playing this in Pikarom no matter what, just because it's just a draw 2 effectively, and that could help you find your custom catchers, your Electro Powers, whatever it might be. So this is an insane card, absolutely busted for Lightning Pokemon. So we have Horse Psychic Energy. So much like this, it's the same thing for Psychic Pokemon, but if it's your active and damaged by an attack, put 2 damage counters on the active Pokemon. So you can see they're pushing this with Dragapult. We have Dragapult, Spell Tag, and the secondary effect on Dragapult is going to spread a bunch of damage counters. So you know, we'll have to see what other decks this might make its way into. You know, there's the Mewtwo Mew, like Malamar hand control deck. We could see that in there. We could see this in just normal Malamar with Giratina. Just really any deck that's playing Psychic Energies has to consider this, I think, especially if it changes their math from taking 2-hit knockouts to 1-hit knockouts. So I think Speed Lightning Energy is the more blatantly good out of the 2 of these, but definitely a good card to have. I kind of wouldn't have minded just a Mystery Energy reprint, but it is kind of cool they are redoing the special energies and not just giving reprints of Flash Energy, Mystery Energy, etc. And so the final card we have here in the set is going to be Capture Energy. I'm really excited about this. It's kind of a similar reprint to Call Energy from the past, but it provides a colorless energy, but whenever you attach this from hand to one of your Pokemon, search deck for a basic, put it onto your bench. So I'm a big fan of this effect, especially for a deck like the Galley deck that we have from Cosmic Eclipse. This is a great card for a deck like that. Similarly for Porygon Z decks or Snorlax VMAX decks, I could definitely see Capture Energy finding its way into decks. There's actually been just like I know I've thought this several times over the past year where I'm just like, man, if only we had Call Energy, that would actually be a really good reprint to have. And I'm blanking now on all the different like ideas, but I'm stoked that we finally have a card like this. So Capture Energy, I think this is a great way to round out our first impressions video. So that is going to be the set, guys. I hope this wasn't too long-winded, but there's definitely some interesting cards. Like I said, all of the special energies, I do like those. Galar Mine. I think Boss's Order and probably Eldegoss V are going to be the most impactful cards. I think those, let's see. Tool Scrapper, definitely going to be good. Scoop 'em Net is insane. Let's see. Pokemon wise, I'm trying to think of like what attackers we saw that are good. Copperajah has potential. Malamar looks very annoying. Hopefully it doesn't have potential. Let's see, Garbodor and Toxtricity. I'm not really even that sold on the whole Toxtricity VMAX deck. Like, I know that's like the big card they're pushing for this set, but it just doesn't do too much for me personally. Weezing, I've seen a ton of people talk about this, but again, guys, I'm really not sold on this unless it had a 2 retreat cost. If we get a great way to retreat this for free, I'm going to like this a bit more. Dawnwing's Air Balloon's probably the best way to make this happen in the meantime, but I could definitely see this card being very impactful as time goes on. Phalanx is definitely pretty fun. I really want to try this out just for fun on the channel. Let's see. Dragapult VMAX also very interesting with the Psychic Special Energy and Spell Tag. So that seems neat. Hadokant, this is a card I want to experiment with. Like, I just really wish this was damage, not damage counters, but... Or I wish this was like, put the damage counters on any Pokemon and not just their active. That would be good, but this card's like so close to being decent, but I think it probably won't see play. Palisand, I actually do want to try this out, like I said. Now that we read the Curse Shovel, I think that's got potential. The Clefable Magmortar deck seems cute. I don't know if it's good, but seems cute. Let's see. Yeah, not a whole lot really grabbed my attention. We have the Milotic, but again, I think I kind of just want to play Tangrowth. Just because the attack cost on this is pretty heavy. And I think we're almost back to the beginning. We got my boy Flapple. I really want to find a way to make this work. I really love this ability. I just don't know what deck I want to play that in personally. Eldegoss, of course, is super good. And yeah, we're back to the beginning. So unfortunately, guys, I don't think there's really a whole lot of really busted attackers in this set. I think the best cards are probably just going to be the trainers that we mentioned and probably Eldegoss V. Those are going to be the most impactful ones. But definitely a lot of cards to still enjoy, even though they're not necessarily like main attacking decks or anything like that. But yeah, definitely some cool stuff in here amongst some of the trash that did make its way in this set. So of course, guys, what did you think about the set? Definitely sound off in the comment section below. What cards are you going to be looking forward to? And of course, we will have our more comprehensive thoughts on the set as a whole in our full Rebel Clash set review whenever we do get closer to May, whenever this full set comes out internationally. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video today. If you did, of course, feel free to like and subscribe and consider supporting this channel by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/rarecandytcg or by picking up some merch from our online store, rarecandytcg.com. It would mean a lot. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.